Hello and welcome to our webinar. My name is Nikki Willett and I'm Compliance Quest VP of Product Marketing and Industry Solutions, and I'll be your host. Just a little bit about me. I've been at Compliance Quest for almost 8 years, about 20 years in the quality industry, over 30 years in life sciences industry, and I'm also the founder of the largest professional network for quality and regulatory on LinkedIn with a little over of 230,000 members worldwide. Today's webinar, as you can see on the first title slide, is going to be a panel talking about driving quality and efficiency in electronic manufacturing services. But before we get started, just let's go over a few housekeeping lessons. So when you look at the menu bar located at the bottom of your screen, you can click on these icons to open and close the desired widgets during the webinar. Most widgets can be moved, resized, hidden, maximized, whatever your preference may be for your best viewing experience. The webinar is going to be in a listen-only mode, and it will be recorded, and you will have access to that a little bit after we finish our session. You can submit questions anytime during the webinar presentation in the Q&A widget, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can after we follow up with the session. Again, our audience members will not be able to see the questions that you actually submit. At the end of the webinar, you'll be presented with a short survey as part of our continuous improvement. We really thank you in advance to please take the time to fill out the survey for us so that we can get that information to continuously improve what we're providing in our webinars. And we really thank you for doing that. And for those of you that fill out the survey, we'll send you a thank you gift card. So that's going to be really great. You'll find that in your email inbox. All right, so, okay, what you see in the video and what you see in the PowerPoint from my picture is slightly different. That was quite a few years ago. So marketing is playing tricks on me for that, but yes, it's still me. That is still me, I'm Nikki. But what I'd really like to do is to introduce our illustrious panel speakers today. Garth Conrad is the Vice President of Quality for Flex. He oversees all the quality functions for Flex's Health Solutions, which designs and manufactures products for customers in the life sciences space. John Lane, who's with us, is the Vice President of IT at Flex, and he oversees global teams managing ERP, MES, advanced planning, quality, and logistics systems, along with a lot of the data, analytics, and AI services. So Garth and John, welcome, and thank you for participating in this webinar.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, Nikki.
Okay, but before we proceed, we'd like our audience to take a quick poll. We'd appreciate it. Just take a look and click on the option, and we'll show you the results for you to compare with your peers. So what is your organization's biggest challenge in managing quality processes in the electronics manufacturing industry today? You have 6 options to choose from. We'll give you a couple of seconds. So please go ahead and select lack of integration, scalability, trends and potential issues, strain of onboarding, poor quality control, security and compliance support. Go ahead and please answer that for us, and we'd really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to give about 5 more seconds here. Come on, guys, it's really easy to click on the buttons. Okay, let's go ahead and see the results. So we have, interestingly enough, 33%, 10%, 3% for poor quality control. So I guess one of the biggest things that we have as a response is the lack of integration between systems. And I believe this is just up the alley for Garth and John to be able to talk about today. So that's great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and proceed. And probably not everybody knows who Flex is. So Garth, maybe what you can do is lead off in giving us a little background of who Flex is for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. So Flex is a global technology, supply chain, and contract manufacturing company that supports multiple industry verticals. So we'll do work for automotive industry, the consumer electronics business, the healthcare market, as well as quite a bit of electronics work, whether it be consumer electronics or cloud or network services, such. And really the core roots of Flex come from the EMS business, so the electronics manufacturing. We've extended off well beyond that now with a lot of the products that we produce, but still core to what we do is a lot of electronics-based manufacturing, production of PCBA boards and things along those lines. We have about 100 facilities globally that we manufacture in, so a number of different countries. We've got about 140,000 employees in total that support all of the industries and the customers. And really, if you look at our customer base, it's all the large companies that are out there for the various industries. It's not just a single customer or a single focus in terms of what we do. Each of our market verticals supports a number of the large companies within that particular market vertical. So.
Great. Thanks, Garth. Oh, you got more?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Nikki.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. All right. Well, we can always come back to that at the end, Garth, if you feel there was anything significant for you to be able to add that happened to be missed. So apologize for the interruption. So let's go ahead with some of the questions to our panel. I'm sure all of you are excited to hear this. Listening to Garth talk about the breadth of all the products that they have to manufacture, the amount that they're dealing with electronics manufacturing, 100 sites, 140,000 employees, which kind of just blows my mind. What are the benefits that you kind of see in having a single platform, right, to be able to manage all these processes? I'm sure many companies out there have all kinds of different systems and all these different sites, and taking a look at everything that you do, all the employees around the world, having a single platform gives you what kind of advantages?
Yeah, absolutely. And that has been a significant challenge for us within Flex. And it was one of the main reasons why we started looking for options for solutions for our enterprise quality management system. Again, since we support multiple market verticals, if you really think about it, we support customers that are in the heavily regulated industry when you look at things like medtech or the healthcare market. And then where I'll say is more lightly regulated, which is in consumer electronics and things along those lines. And when you're looking for systems that support both types of controls, heavily regulated and not so heavily regulated, the challenge becomes finding a tool set that will work across all those platforms. To complicate it even more, if you look at a lot of our manufacturing environment, when we look at a particular manufacturing site, they don't tend to support just one market vertical. They'll support products that are coming from different customers, different industries along those lines. So you ran into a challenge where we had systems, disconnected systems, which were trying to support one industry versus another industry. So plants had multiple ways of doing things. And that becomes a challenge, especially from an efficiency perspective when you're looking at operating your manufacturing sites. So we took this as an opportunity to look at a best-in-class platform that would really allow us to interconnect all the activities that we do, so bring in all the data, all the systems, all the processes, but also have a single common platform that we would utilize across the business to be able to help and support our customers. The other key thing there is it helps drive sort of our approach to interaction with our customers, the data we can provide, the information, the way that we support their needs, the way that we provide them information about our performance, and the way that we monitor our performance internally. So lots of benefits come from moving to a single comprehensive platform that really meets all the needs of the business.
Okay, great. So one of the key things when you're looking at your entire environment, obviously we're very much focused on everything that's needed to support from the quality and operations, for Flex across all of your sites, all of your customers, and so forth. But one of the key things is that most companies like yourself will always have a back office system. You're going to have ERPs, MESs, you're going to have front office systems like CRM, and so forth. And therefore, it's not just the single platform, but also looking at, how you integrate with those systems with that platform. Can you explain, how you're dealing with that integration capabilities, especially as you're looking at getting that data, as you stated, and getting the right kind of data, for example, into the hands of customers? Maybe, John, you can take that one.
Yeah, and kind of just following on a little bit to what Garth just said. Okay, I mean, the first piece in the consideration of, a platform like Compliance Quest and going that way is just the integration of the quality processes, because our prior existence, which we're progressively moving off now from that perspective, was, 35 different modules, functions, which were semi-independent, all in Gart's space in terms of supporting different quality functions and stuff like that. So the first thing in terms of, you got to think about it from an integration perspective, is just by getting to a common platform, those areas become much more integrated and are sitting immediately in a common environment. That's a massive benefit in itself. Then, as you say, the whole ecosystem of running 100 factories. We've got the ERP, we've got the PLM, we've got our MES systems, et cetera, all of which need to interact with quality at different stages in the process. So the key piece of being able to have a platform like Compliance Quest, but more importantly, the robust nature of integration to it from that perspective, has allowed us to build that, purchasing related data, supplier related data, which is a key portion to the quality side from that perspective, is integrated within it, product data from the PLM, et cetera. Triggers for non-conformance coming from the shop floor systems into the quality system. That's the level of strength, and that's why, being on a platform like Compliance Quest has been a massive advantage to us, and will expand to be as we, we're what am I say, maybe a quarter to a third of the way through the actual deployment, having built the solution in the first case. So as we get that further and further across, this is proving to be massively beneficial in terms of the timeliness of data, in that sense of real-time availability to the users across the system. The other side of integration that is highly beneficial in our scale of operations, 100 factories, 140,000 direct employees, from that point of view, is the integration into our access control. That, you can imagine a lot of people start and stop, right? Frequently. How do we put those into the system? How do we do that? We're connected into, the back office areas, our Okta controls, our Active Directories, et cetera, from we're a Microsoft shop in that front. So it's absolutely, it's become, once we go through that initial integration setup, the addition, the shrinking and growing of people across the organization is seamlessly managed and taking a huge amount of pressure off the back office IT organization as well. I mean, that's what the platform has given us. I mean, in terms of that, very easy connectivity into other systems with other systems, I should probably say it, because it's bidirectional from that perspective. And then obviously control of the environment through people access, et cetera, from that perspective. It's been a highly successful process to date.
That sounds great, and it must be a relief to be able to have your organization focus on the most important things rather than constantly managing all these different kinds of integrations that's going on. So I hear you. You know, when you mention 100 manufacturing sites and 140,000 employees, the first thing that comes in my head is 140,000 employees made up from multiple countries, young generation, older generation, a lot of different mix of people that have experience with paper-based systems, with automated systems to really automated systems, working on their tablets and phones and so forth, is user adoption, right? One of the key things that I know is, you know, the user friendliness of a system, and the adoption and the plans that you make for that change management is going to be, you know, pretty much important in order to get that employee satisfaction and get them to use the system. So what is it that that Flex is, you know, started to do and is continuing to do, you know, to gain that adoption, you know, within the company?
Yeah, I mean, great question, Nikki. You know, if I step back just a bit, when I mentioned that we went through a process of trying to identify what solutions were available in the market to meet our needs, but I neglected to talk about the scope that we started looking at. So when we approached this to look at a brand new enterprise quality management system, we weren't just looking for a system that was going to support power users, the people that are interacting every single day. We actually started looking for a system that was going to be broad across our entire user base. And that meant every employee within Flex, as well as every one of our customers and every one of our suppliers. We wanted a system that was going to be comprehensive and user-friendly, where people can interact and get the information and the data, the things that they need to do their business. So from a scope perspective, we're talking over 200,000 users of a single system to access it and get what they need. Now, when you're talking about something at that scale, the problem is the system has to be very user-friendly. It has to be intuitive. It has to be easy for users that aren't getting in on a regular basis. Can they navigate and get to the things that they need? So when we went through our process of selection of a tool, that was one of our key focus areas, was the usability of the system. We brought in a huge team of people that evaluated all the functionality, looked at the ability for us to, you know, basically use it out of the box, and how it was going to meet our needs internally and drive those types of things that the users were going to do on a daily basis associated with that. So we spent a lot of time on selection and making sure that we were getting a platform that was going to meet the broader business needs in terms of the organization. Now, since then, as we've started with first our pilot operations, and then as we get into our global deployment, we're very careful about monitoring user performance or user satisfaction with the system as they're getting in, as they're getting trained, as we're bringing up new sites on the platform. And we monitor that through a couple of different means. You know, obviously one is more reactive in that we make sure that we're not having problems. So help desk tickets that go into the system, and then John's team has to deal with them in terms of resolving the issues we have. So we monitor those metrics, but we also monitor things along the lines of the number of users that are getting into the system and the frequency that they're getting in. So we're understanding what they're interacting with, where the challenges may be. And with all the testing work that we've done up front, we really try to make sure that it's as easy as it can be for the users to do the things they need to. Now, extending off beyond that, as I mentioned, part of our implementation is our suppliers as well as our customers. And we're just getting to that stage now where we're beginning to open, or will open, the system up for those people to interact with the system as well. And it's critically important that, just like our internal users, when we look at our external users, which will be getting in the system, they have the ability to navigate and get to the things that they need to make it efficient and make it easy for them to see what they need to do and in and out of the system without all the problems and everything else along those lines. So again, we spent a lot of time up front with selection of the platform. We've now spent a lot of time with what our internal training efforts are and the things along configuration of the system for the users to get in. And we've seen some great success so far in terms of the users that we do have that are accessing the system, their ability to get their job done in an efficient manner. We've seen great improvement across the organization so far.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, 200,000 scope for an implementation with suppliers and customers is definitely pretty daunting. The user interface, as far as user friendliness, I could see, absolutely that's going to be necessary, especially for those what I call casual users that are going to be dealing with that. And I guess one of the things that was kind of interesting that you said is how you're monitoring, employees. And I think, in their use of the system, and I guess I would say that would be a good recommendation, for companies to take a look at as they're starting to proceed with an implementation like you have, especially for the size that you have. So,
yeah,
so
Nikki,
that sounds
Nikki, just to add into that a couple of extra little things in terms of the usability, the things that don't stand out in terms of how a user interacts with screens, etc. All of that in terms of the efficiency that's there and is proven from that perspective. The other piece is given our scale, individual factories kind of run their own quality department as such. So how they control access and role controls and stuff like that. One of the strengths that we found with Compliance Quest and one of the selection reasons is, the ability for us to be able to model a factory environment, a quality factory environment, and then have that controlled from a role perspective in the sites themselves. Right, from that point of view, making it easier that it's not a really centralized, you're able to decentralize, right, that control from a user perspective, taking a little bit of it away from the traditional IT engagement and putting it in the hands of people that make it easier. And that is a real benefit to actual adoption. It gives a sense of self-control to the teams closer to where the work happens. Right, and that to me is, it's not a quality specific thing, but from an implementation perspective at the technical level, it's a massive benefit that we've been able to do that with the process.
That's absolutely great. I guess continuing with the wow factor of the number of people that are going to be using this system today for what you have, and obviously in the future, I would assume scalability is a big issue for you in the sense of how a system or a platform is going to be able to scale with this kind of growth. And that's, your vision tomorrow is with the suppliers and customers, but I'm sure that Flex is continuing to grow, even beyond that. So what are the kinds of things, or how do you see, Compliance Quest sort of supporting that framework in order for you to be able to scale to the full scope that you're seeing for the future?
In terms of scalability, I mean, it was key to ultimately the selection process, going back a couple of years at this stage. Where we find ourselves now in the reality of it is it's actually, why we selected Compliance Quest in this space, it has proven to be, valid, if I put it as simple as that. If you think about, where we stand, we have about 25,000 users across approximately 10 of the sites active. We have a program that's very active, obviously. We're bringing on between 7 and 9 sites per quarter for the next year plus from that point of view. So you can imagine, ease of scalability was critical from that perspective. We're able to bring those users on, those sites on, with relative ease, right, from that side. I won't say, obviously, we've got to go through the change management of the people and how they transition from an existing system to a new system. But from a technical perspective, the ease of the scalability is absolutely massive from my perspective. I don't really have to worry about it. Yes, we have to execute it, switch on the users. But in terms of, anything in terms of the performance level, the speed at which we can add, 5,000 users for a factory is, minutes as opposed to anything else from that perspective. So that whole infrastructure that sits behind the Compliance Quest, in other words, the platform itself, is allowing us to do that with relative ease. And then, you've kind of alluded to the fact that, Flex isn't a static entity. In the middle of all of this, of course, we acquire new locations, we expand locations, we add an extra building beside an existing building, right? So all of that in terms of the scalability of the Compliance Quest platform is, I'd call it seamless in the sense of there's no extra work that we've got to do from a technical perspective to add another 10,000 people, right? From that point of view. So at that level, you know, the platform that we've got here is really, really beneficial.
Yeah, I would oh, go ahead, Garth.
I was just going to say that the one thing I would add into what John's saying is, you know, scalability, obviously, from the technical perspective, the IT system controls and such is important, but scalability also from a site, I'll call it personnel level. If you think about it, when you put solutions in place, they've got to work in sites that you may have 50 people at, or they've got to work in a site that you may have 5,000 people at. So when you look at the resourcing, the requirements that go along those lines, you've got to have something that operates in that manner. And that was one of our key challenges as well. When you look at 100 sites globally in terms of what we're doing, all sorts of different products and customers that we support, we've got to have the technical perspective to be able to scale, and we've got to have a system that's flexible enough to operate within that scale of use conditions across the company as well.
Yeah, and I can imagine that many companies, you know, probably have a fear factor as far as, you know, how much significant modifications you're going to have to do within the system in order to be able to make it work for that many, you know, people and the different kinds of size of sites. So that's great to hear. Now, one of the things of having a single platform, which we started with at first, and of course the integration, you know, with the front and back office systems, is you've got a lot of data that's coming in, a lot of data for you to be able to use, you know, gain those insights, you know, from that data, and be able to do, you know, a lot of different, you know, reports. And I guess the question I have for you is, how have you been using that capability, you know, to help you, you know, turn into a more proactive, you know, quality organization, especially for your customers who are always, you know, high demand for the best and quality products?
Yeah. So Flex has always had a very strong data-driven culture. We draw in a lot of information, whether it be from our manufacturing equipment and processes, or it just be from the business processes, the operation, or our suppliers, or wherever. And we do a lot of analytics to understand performance and understand where we can help drive efficiencies and improvement in what we're doing. So it was critical as we looked at a enterprise quality management system that we were going to have the ability to collect the data, analyze the data, and really pull it all together into a single messaging or easy way of presenting information, so dashboarding, if you will. You know, and core to us, Flex uses, I'll call it across the business, we use Tableau as part of a lot of our analysis, which is another Salesforce tool. So the advantage of Compliance Quest also being on Salesforce, a lot of the data set that's there in terms of what you're creating within the system, the analytics platform that you run, coming from the Salesforce capabilities and such along those lines, it's all very common to what we were doing already across Flex. So now the nice thing, as John mentioned, you know, we started off with multiple systems. When you look at it, we had a tool approach to our quality management systems before, where we had a great CAPA tool or a great non-conformance tool or a great warranty management tool. How do you draw those in so that the data begins to overlap and you begin to look at your dashboarding or your interconnectedness across the board on everything that you're doing? So the nice thing with Compliance Quest, all the data comes together. All of those business processes that you move over that support the quality function, they're all on one platform. So accessibility of the data is there. Now, creating metrics, uniform metrics versus or against a common data set or a known data source becomes much easier because you're not moving data around. You're not having to manipulate it and and contort it around or transform it because it comes from one system to another system. So that's one of the advantages of it being under a single system. Now, if I extend off, the other advantage that we bring in with Compliance Quest is, since the data set is all there, now, as for example, when we deal with our suppliers, we have the ability to look at supplier metrics and supplier performance, not only with us proactively doing it internally, but the supplier will actually have access to come into the system and look at their metrics as well, or generate reports associated with performance in terms of what we're seeing that they're doing for us. Our customers have access into the system and will be able to look at reports on performance associated with the processes that we have for them. So it becomes much easier to exchange information, to look at the things that are critical that are driving the business, to use analytics to really improve what you're doing on an ongoing basis. The platform really supports that.
That's absolutely great. Yeah, I remember the old days in management reviews where you're getting Excel spreadsheets from your 100 different manufacturing sites and trying to stitch those together and then go through the analytics. And then by that time, products are already out the door and into the distribution chain, and if you'd find an issue. So yeah, it is definitely great to get away from that and have all the data in one place. So, you know, when you're dealing with data that's coming from all different aspects of your operations, data that may be coming in from your suppliers, data that's coming in from your front office and back office, you know, systems. I know that a lot of people are still worrying about how their data is being secured. You know, are they going to make sure that, you know, nobody else is going to have access to data that they shouldn't, that, you know, there's not going to be any type of cybersecurity threat that, you know, will reveal, you know, your intellectual property. You know, how are you, you know, sort of assured that Compliance Quest, you know, is protecting your data and making sure that your customers know that as well?
I mean, we're very practical in terms of this, right? Obviously, you can imagine at our scale, we have many, many suppliers and stuff like that. So when we look at any selection process, we have a very comprehensive program run by my peer, or CISO, right, from that point of view. So again, you know, we put Compliance Quest through the rigor of what we put all of our suppliers through in terms of response. You know, what are your policies? What it is? We have obviously copies of all of those. We're in a position to be able to share those into our customers, who are the ones who would drive most of the interest in this area. Obviously, our relationship down to our suppliers. So in terms of the needs of Flex, in terms of what we're contractually obliged to deal with our customers, you know, we're more than happy with the, you know, the review and the continual review, I should say, that we do with Compliance Quest from the point of view of data security, et cetera, from that perspective and all the rest of it. Within our kind of four walls, then there's an extra layer, which I kind of alluded to a little bit a few minutes ago. You know, contractually, because yes, we have 100 factories, but we've got somewhere in the region of 800 to 900 customers at any point in time. Sometimes we're building their latest and greatest product, which isn't even available in the market. Nobody even knows it's coming, right, from that side. So a lot of our customers are very sensitive about that, and very sensitive about who inside Flex can see data with regard to them, right, from that side. So again, Compliance Quest has allowed us to build the access controls to meet that very much kind of, it's not something that a traditional OEM often needs, but in the contract manufacturing system environment, we do need to be able to isolate, you know, specific data sets, i.e. a customer or possibly a specific supplier. And Compliance Quest has allowed us to do that quite successfully, right, from that perspective. To be quite honest, even it would have been one of my concerns coming into the process 2.5 years ago. But, you know, we spent quite a bit of time with your team, with the Compliance Quest team, to make sure that this was going to meet the needs. And, you know, it's been successful, which is great from our perspective.
Yeah, and of course, one of the key things that you also can rely upon is the Salesforce platform, you know, itself being in the cloud with everything that they're providing as far as their security measures as well, especially for dealing with, you know, a lot of the cyber attacks that are going on out there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's great, and I'm sure your customers are feeling much more comfortable that the operations that you're doing and the data that's happening is well protected. So now I'm gonna kind of go into a slightly different direction, and I happen to know that this is one of Garth's favorite topics, and that is about AI. So AI, you know, we've been dealing with AI for many, many, many years. I remember from a long time ago, and I'm not going to tell you how long that is, but you know, it's been around for a while, and until Gen AI sort of just jumped out with ChatGPT, all of a sudden it's now becoming sort of the top talking points everywhere across the technology, across industries, and so forth. And people looking at using those tools to be able to enhance efficiency, repeatability, get rid of sort of those, you know, functions or work that's really not necessary, so your employees can focus on the right job that they need to do. So, you know, even though I know you're still starting out and still going through the implementation, you know, what have some of the applied AI tools that within Compliance Quest, you know, that you see today that's helping you with that, you know, reducing human error, consistency, and then sort of what is your vision of AI for quality in the future?
Wow.
That was a lot.
How much time do we have to? You know, I'll start off simple. You know, from a Compliance Quest perspective, I think just like every other company that's out there right now, everybody is beginning to transition their platform to utilize new technologies that have become available over the last couple of years. And if you really look at it, Gen AI, or the ChatGPT portion of Gen AI, has really only been about a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer that it's been out there. So there's a lot of transition that's still occurring. To the benefit of the team at Compliance Quest, your team really jumped on top of this in terms of how to incorporate in those tool sets into the tool so that the users, the people that have implemented the system or are implementing the system, gain some benefit immediately from them. You know, some of the simple things, we were talking before about usability of the system and making sure users understand what they need to do. One of the great tools that you've incorporated in as part of Compliance Quest is the next best action function that's there. And that aids the users by telling them, based on where they're at in a flow, here's the next thing that we suggest that you do based on it, whatever the information is or the step associated with it. Those are cues to users that really help with the adoption piece, because they've got that aid, that assistant that's right there, that's helping them as they're working through the process. So that's been a huge benefit along those lines. When we look at some of the other tool sets that are available within Compliance Quest now, simple things like when you look at the risk management portion and you look at the identification of common risks or problems that are there, or non-conformance, where it looks through the history and understands where performance has been associated with a given non-conformance, or it looks at complaints and it suggests, you know, where the problem may fit from codes or things along those lines. All of those little tool sets that bring in that functionality, they don't replace the people you have, but they make the people more efficient in what they're doing. They make it faster and easier. People still have to make decisions themselves, so the tool's not making the decision for them, but it's aiding them in getting to that end solution or getting through the workload, the content they have, much faster. So those are some basic things that are functioning, work, and really provide help to the organization. I know Compliance Quest actually has sort of a future view of things that will be coming with AI in general as well. And I look forward to a number of those other functionalities that will be coming out when it's things like summaries of investigation complaints, and it's automatic translation of information within the system for, you know, conversion tables, and all of those good things that will be helping out as we progress forward.
Giving away secrets. No, just kidding.
Yeah, Gen AI obviously is much broader applications when you look even outside of the tool in terms of what the quality function can do with it. But I just look forward to the continued evolution of the AI agents, which are active within Compliance Quest, and how that continues to expand as we move forward, because it really will help us on our journey for greater efficiencies and just better outcomes. Especially when we look at things like trending and all of that the agents are going to be able to help provide that information or that guidance to users as you're going through the system. So
great. So yeah, thank you for giving away a few little secrets that are coming up, but that's okay. We love you to death, Garth, so it's okay for that one. But yeah, we're very excited about the capabilities that we have for AI and our AI agents. The key thing is that our AI agents are across all of our solutions and across our entire platform. So you're just going to continue to see that to grow with every release that we have. And of course, it's important for us also to be able to get that input from customers like yourselves with the vision of where AI can actually help with quality. So, Garth kind of alluded to a little bit about, sort of the future AI. Everybody's talking about AI in the future. And one of the things that I know is important is when you're selecting technology like Compliance Quest, it's important to understand whether or not that system or that platform is going to be able to not just grow with your scalability or your flexibility that you have, but also to look at how the system is going to be future-proof. We're going to help you with that future evolution of your system. So you don't get static with the technology that's today, but it can grow with you as you grow and as the technology becomes available. So can you kind of describe how you're seeing that with Compliance Quest in sort of helping you remain, at the forefront of in a dynamic, changing, industry?
I mean, I'll talk it from the technology perspective first, Nikki, from that side, right? Okay, obviously, we're working with the partner in Compliance Quest, who's working with the partner in terms of the Force platform, et cetera, with Salesforce. So again, in terms of the selection of Compliance Quest to meet our consolidated enterprise quality management system, obviously the key selection was the functionality that Garth and the rest of the quality organization were going to get, modern functionality, integrated functionality together. But the backdrop is that the core piece of the technology moving forward, with yourselves, obviously our interaction with the teams involved from your perspective, very high confidence level built up earlier on that you were leveraging the tools that you chose to use, in other words, the Force platform and technology perspective. That ties into our strategies internally as well, then, because obviously we're a Tableau BI user as our primary piece. There's a relationship strength there. We are actually also a Salesforce CRM user from that perspective. So if we think about it from a large-scale company direction, this fits into our overall strategy, and we have trust that Compliance Quest with your primary platform supplier Salesforce are driving forward with good, enhanced capability, enhanced technology, with just what you've just talked about there in terms of the AI enablement within the platform. You're doing all the right things. Salesforce are doing the right things as well, and that's a real comfort to us going forward. We're party to this, and I think the vote to it in terms of when you think about it in terms of our forward strategy, we've recently started to adopt your environment, health, and safety functionality as well. On the back of the fact that we went with the quality system, we see the technology that it sits on, the capability on it, and we've even further bet into this space from a technology and enhancement growth perspective, because it fits into our technology roadmap, but our data roadmap in terms of connecting more and more of our information together, which feeds directly then into the AI strategies that, as Garth has just said, are rapidly growing everywhere, not just in terms of the quality space. Right, from that point. Garth, anything else to add?
No, I think you hit all the high points. You know, future-proofing technology is important. When you look at the amount of time that companies spend implementing systems along these lines, it's not something that you want to do on a, you know, an every 2-year, 3-year basis. So you really need to choose a technology partner that's set up for the future and really has that same vision that you have internally for your company. They're going to make sure the platform is there for you for the next how many ever years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. Great. Well, before, let's see, we have one more polling question, I believe. Yes, we do. So if you could, just like you did before, answer this polling question for us, we'd really appreciate it. So based upon the discussions that you've been hearing with Garth and John, what do you believe would be the most value to your organization? And again, simply select one of the options in here. It's pretty easy. Just quickly click on it. You know, is it that single comprehensive platform, seamless integration, the advanced analytics, user friendliness, or AI, you know, automation? Just go ahead and I'll give you a few seconds to go ahead and select that. Okay, a lot of you are really tired on clicking on the keyboard, I guess, as we have slow numbers. So come on, guys, just a few clicks. All right, so we want to get to the Q&A, so we're going to go ahead and move over. But first, thank you so much, Garth and John, for being here for this panel. This has been so great, and I think it's had a lot of interesting, you know, information on how Flex has taken a look at selecting and implementing compliance class and how this has been happening and helping you in your own operations. So I really thank you for the delightful discussions that we have and appreciate you being here. Now, maybe one more point. Yeah, one more point I did have, and I did that a little bit too quick. I did want to see if you had any wrap-up statement before we go into Q&A. Garth, John, anything?
I know.
Sorry, go ahead, Garth.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I mean, again, just to talk about it in terms of, you know, the model that we set out, you know, Garth, myself, and a number of the other quality people in the overall organization to identify a comprehensive solution in the space of an enterprise quality management system. I think, you know, you step into these large pieces with trepidation, right? From that point of view, are you going to get the right one? It's going to be an investment. It's not going to be a small investment because of the scale of what we operate on. But I think, you know, we look at this, you know, two years or so into execution mode, you know, from that perspective, from the time we started the actual project to go live post selection process. But I think where we sit today, you know, we've made a good decision and we found a good partner, is the way I would put it from that perspective. You know, when you think about it from an IT leadership perspective, as busy as we are and the amount of work that we have in front of us to deploy this to such a large organization, this isn't a hot topic, right? You know, there isn't pressure on this. There's anticipation to get to the next site and the next site from that perspective. And that's a really positive, because a lot of times driving change of this scale into a large organization, you know, you get a lot of resistance in a lot of times. We're not actually having that here. We've actually got a very progressive mindset coming from the users based on the experience to date. So I think that's a really, you know, it's a compliment to you guys in terms of the partnership we have with you from that perspective. And it's also, you know, probably a compliment to the core platform that it's based on as well, that makes the technology quite seamless. I won't say everything is work. It's not that this happens by accident from that perspective, but it's gone as well as I could have thought it would have gone when we started the journey 2+ years ago.
Okay. All right. So, very, very quickly, and I appreciate just a little bit of moment to talk about Compliance Quest, and I'll try to do this fast. So we were founded in 2014. We have certifications on ISO 9001 and SOC 2. More importantly, though, is that we have over 300,000 users across 1,000 customer sites. And I guess once Flex completely deploys, there'll be a lot more of them. And this number I know is out of skew, which is 125 million plus active records that are being managed in the CQ system today. And I know that's actually even higher than that. So we provide, as Garth and John has been talking about, a completely connected, operational excellence platform that's natively built on Salesforce. Provides a range of functionality, so from design and development, quality assurance and control, safety and environmental, and supplier relationship and supplier quality. We're completely data-driven, as you've heard, to provide you the right kinds of data insights, as well as be able to help you with predictions to be able to keep a pulse point on your operations and your compliance in order to be able to have those best decision-making assistants. Easy mechanism to integrate with your corporate systems, as we heard from John. And one of the talked about is Compliance Quest AI functionality, the applied technology from dealing with summaries, dealing with assistance, similarities, and so much more across each individual solution and across the entire platform. And then, of course, finally, we have to make note of our Salesforce business platform, which also provides you the complete flexibility in configuring the system, the scalability to grow with you, and the trust and security of your data in the cloud. So I thank you for listening, and I believe we are going to open it up to questions now. Okay, and I'm looking at the questions.
Nikki, I'll take one of the easy ones that's there. There was somebody asked, how do we start? How many pilot sites did we go, one or whatever? Just to put it in terms of our scale, we ran with 3 pilot sites, which was approximately 6,000 users. We deliberately chose them, to be cross-functional from a business perspective. From that perspective, we did restrict ourselves to work across two of our regions rather than 3, just from an effectiveness perspective. So we used Europe and the Americas as our test bed. Again, that's just so that we didn't overstretch ourselves trying to run 24/7 in terms of the early stages of it. But that's basically how we approached it. We set it at a scale that was, I think, Garth, the easy way to put it was going to stress all of the areas that we were looking to build into the first wave of what we were doing, but also make sure that we brought in quality from the different key functions, particularly the more regulatory compliance type functions like the medtech, et cetera. They were deliberately brought to the front end so that we didn't go down a happy path and try and make it easy for ourselves. We actually went with I won't say every piece of complexity, but a significant complex piece. And that's proven to be beneficial as we step into the deployment where we are now, because we're not, we've solved all of the issues up front, I think, from that side. I won't say absolutely everything, but the bulk of the hard work was done in the early stages with these pilot sites.
Yeah.
Great. The next question that we have is, somebody said that we have a lot of corporate systems across our entire company, and maintaining those data connections and upgrades from them can be complex. And how easy has it been for you starting out doing these integrations and keeping them and maintaining them through upgrades?
The integrating with Compliance Quest with the Force platform is very consistent and relatively easily maintained once you do the initial work from that perspective. Because obviously, more of the work is actually less on the compliance Force side, because that's fairly well identified from that perspective. The harder work is probably the wrong way to use it, but the more complex work is on the more legacy type systems that we have, which I presume is kind of the reference the question is kind of being asked from, that's where we need to put more effort in it. The Compliance Quest side of it has actually been the easier side of that from that perspective is the way I would put it. So it helps, Compliance Quest has helped us in that regard, and it's made it, very consistent on the quality end to get the data in there from that perspective. The work is on the other side. Obviously, we have teams of people internally that do that on a day-to-day basis, and it's about allocation of resource to that to get it in place. We've got a comprehensive, internal support and monitoring system, etc., most of which is automated, so that makes it easier from our perspective. But that's the backdrop to that, how we've worked with that.
Great. Next question is, should AI be a priority for an organization moving from a manual system like Excel? Now, how do we assess that?
So I'll take that one. I think a lot of it depends on the data or the information that you have available. Obviously, AI works better with the data that you have. If you don't have data that's available for it to utilize, it becomes difficult for it to create predictions and things along those lines. But what I would tell you instead is, as you're making a choice in terms of an EQMS package, I'll come back to what I said before. It's really important to take a look at what your technology future looks like. So don't buy a system for today. Buy a system for what you need 5 years from now or 10 years from now, because that's where you're going to be. If you spend all this time doing implementation and then all of a sudden the technology doesn't meet what you need for the future, you've got a big problem that you just incorporated in or spent a lot of time doing the wrong things. So I would tell you to look for what you believe you're going to need 5 to 10 years out. Make a selection on the tool based on that, and that will bring along all of those other tool sets and data capabilities and such, like AI, into the mix in terms of the things that you're looking at. So that approach is a much better approach. And again, to the compliments of the Compliance Quest team, there's a great future in terms of the platform and the development that they're still going through to enhance usability of the system and functionality along those lines. And that's part of the reason why it fit sort of our technology portfolio as we were looking for what our future needs are.
Okay. Next question, it's multiple questions in here, so let me see if I can summarize this. Can you discuss just at a high level, because I know that we can't spend another hour here, but at a high level, what was the process of your initial deployments? In the sense of, how easy was it, the people involved? Can you give sort of a high level perspective from that?
Yeah, but if you look at it from the point of view of Stan, we've gone through the selection, we've decided to do Compliance Quest. Obviously, there's, that early stage getting to know you in terms of the team. Obviously, from Gart's perspective, from my perspective, assembling the team, we've identified the 3 pilot sites, who the quality teams were. We always operate across Flex as we do scale type deployments like this, a kind of a key user type in the area of expertise, in this case, obviously quality. So Garth and his peers basically assembled, let's call it the business team from each of those 3 sites. My team is assembled then from the technology perspective and the actual support, call it the kind of solution managers as is the phrase that I use for the team that's there. They were brought together as a collective, right, from that perspective, as one team, pretty much dedicated to it from that perspective. From an IT perspective, 100% dedicated to the site. People obviously are, in the end of the day, things happen in factories that they've got to get sidetracked a little bit from time to time. But againstly, we put a very strong core team together. We created training and education sessions with Compliance Quest, both at the technical level for the pure IT element, but also from a functional level, and built from there. And then essentially, based on the functionality that we were programming in a particular area where there was a cap and non-conformance, we started on training and documentation because that's the base layer of Compliance Quest from our perspective from that point. And we built forward from there as a team in terms of literally working sessions, hours per week with those people on Zoom calls from that perspective, and in person from time to time where we could do that from that perspective, and built forward what you would call a traditional type piece. But we kept the team together, for that whole year of those 3 pilots. And the core team has continued on to manage the deployment strategies from that point onwards, which were learned through the first 3 pilots.
That's great. And I think that answered the next question, which was what kind of training and onboarding process was needed for employees to get comfortable. So I think you just answered that question. So thank you. Thank you, John. That was two for one. There we go. Or one for two. All right. What's the next one? Just did that one. What time is it? Okay. Last question that we have, is there anything else coming in? Last question that we have is, if you could share, what were some of the quantified efficiencies that you've seen so far in the initial deployments that you've done?
Yeah, so I'll jump into this. Obviously with any system, any implementation that you go through, when you're looking for funding across the company, you want to be able to show a return on investment associated with it. That return on investment for us was driven by looking at efficiencies of personnel. So again, we're in the very early stages. Obviously, we're not fully deployed globally as of yet. But we have, as we're bringing on a number of sites, we're monitoring what those efficiency gains have been. And we look at performance of the system, because that leads to efficiencies, not within just the core quality team, but the broader sense of the organization that supports tools along these lines. We've seen so far that everything is on target with what our initial efficiency measurements were. So we're leading down the pathway of achieving our return on investment. But we've still got some time to go before I could definitively tell you here's a quantifiable number associated with it.
Got it. All right. I think that's all the time that we have. We're at the top of the hour. So any question that we didn't get to, we will certainly contact you directly to be able to email you an answer. I'd like to thank you, our audience, and especially for Garth and John to take time out of their day to provide us a very informative panel session. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope to see you back again soon for another webinar. And please, please take the time to fill out the survey that launches at the end of this session. And again, as I said, we'll give you a quick gift card. So thank you, everybody, and please keep safe and healthy. Bye now.